Welcome to the second of 6 videos that prepares you for kayak fishing. Ready for my best tips and techniques? Let's get into it. My first tip, start right at the beginning and get the right kayak. When I started out a few years ago, I met up with a friend at a kayak shop in my area to demo every kayak. I wanted to know that what I was getting into was the right thing for me. I tried sit inside kayaks, sit on top kayaks, kayaks with different hull designs and methods of propulsion. When I decided on the right one, I felt so confident in that choice. Keep in mind, we all have unique needs as anglers, so one thing that was incredibly important for me was that the kayak was going to carry my best friend. If it didn't work for him, it didn't work for me. And once you find that perfect kayak for you, for the love of fish, protect the hull. My kayak is ready for rugged use, but the technology and the hull design needs to be protected. Keep your kayak on stands, don't leave it on flat ground. When you transport it, treat your straps like a loving relationship. Secure the kayak firmly, but tenderly. Tighten the straps by hand, because using ratcheting straps leaves a lot of opportunity for over-tightening, which can compromise the hull of the kayak. These precautions will keep your hull from flattening or caving and will keep you gliding through the water. When you're drifting off to your next fishing spot, I want you to show up confidently because your gear is well organized. The autonomy that comes with kayak fishing is exciting, and space for 1.5 means organization will bode well for you. Pick organizing gear that makes sense for your style of fishing. Keep boxes ready with gear you know you will use, and use a gear changing system. Adding snaps or swivels to gear that you've already tied makes on the water changes much easier. One thing I taught my clients when I was guiding was that time tying gear is time that your presentation is out of the water. Making even a few more casts with an effective gear system is meaningful because, well, a fish comes on a single cast. So, statistics, my friend. Since you and I are working to ensure the odds are in your favor, let's talk about how to approach fish. One mistake that I made at the beginning of my kayak fishing journey was not having a good sense of scope. As large boat anglers, I understand distance relative to the bank, and as a bank angler, I understood that the need to be close to the water to cast was important, but I approach banks slowly and methodically. But as a kayak angler, you need to find that middle ground. Consider your size in comparison with your fishing area. It's easy to feel small and get too close to things. Approach with your head in stealth mode. If you're fishing on the move, let's talk about the technique of trolling from a kayak. So today I have a good trolling rod out with me with a line counter on it because getting my depth just right is going to be key to finding fish today. Some of the gear that I'm using includes a sliding weight that's on my line, a couple stacks of bead chains, a nice strong bumper at about 26 inches, an 11-inch Pro Troll 360 flasher, and about 32 inches of leader with a super bait behind it packed just in tuna. So today my plan is to go around the lake portion of this area where I'm marking a lot of fish, drop my stuff just on the bottom. The sun is really high. A lot of those fish are just sitting on the bottom, and I'm trolling, and my rod is giving kind of a nice like little thumb action as I go. So I'm wanting that speed to look like 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000 on the rod. And what that's doing is allowing that 360 flasher to do a full 360 revolution, kind of simulating like a fish kind of like flashing and turning. And then I have the super bait spinning behind it, hopefully enticing a fish today to bite. This might be my cue to leave. So you're ready to catch fish on the go, but when should you go out? When should you not? Here are the resources I use to plan my fishing day. Nice weather. Untrustworthy weather. My favorite online resource is a website called Tides for Fishing. I usually search it and then click on the area that I want to fish in. It gives a great overview of information like wind, temperature, and humidity, but I also look at this for swell information, especially if I'm kayaking. So wave direction, height of the wave, wave period. There's great infographics that give you an hourly breakdown of what the swell is going to look like for you. This also gives you tidal information. When is high tide going to be? When is low tide going to be? And one of my favorite things here is it shows the tidal coefficient. Tidal coefficient is super handy because it gives you the size of the tide in relation to its mean. So the higher the tidal coefficient, the larger the tidal range. So this is the difference between water height between high and low tide. So it affects fishing in the sense that large coefficients can produce optimal seabed movements for fishing in some places, but you have to keep in mind that in other places, it may disturb the bottom a little bit too much, dragging around a lot of algae and dirt, making fishing impractical. So if you're fishing an area that has if you're fishing an area and notice that sometimes when you fish it, there's just so much algae and so much stuff floating around, you might want to keep an eye on the tidal coefficient to see when the optimal time is to go. The tide table gives you weather, high tide, low tide, and this kind of like fishing activity deal. So you can look at a weekly forecast, and then within that, I also like to look at the fishing forecast. It's just a nifty little tool that shows what fishing is going to look like on a particular day of the week and why it's good or not good for that day. It's super cool. Preparing for the environment is important, and just as important, outfitting for the environment. You know what I'm going to tell you first, right? Yeah, get a PFD. Not just any PFD. Get one that is suited for kayaking, and do not use auto-inflating PFDs. You're going to get wet in a kayak, and you could accidentally trigger inflation. You don't want to risk equipment failure either. You are too important for that. Add a whistle to it, and I even say bring a snack. Whoops, I already ate that one. A PFD that is cut for a kayak will make for a comfortable and safe day on an adventure. I like having things that cut or can otherwise be useful in an emergency situation. This knife is my favorite because it's super accessible. Disasters can happen quickly, so be ready. If I'm out to sea, I bring a marine radio so I can communicate with the Coast Guard and other anglers. My pedal drive is amazing, and autopilot feels like my personal water Cadillac. But if a prop breaks or something happens to them, I always have a paddle for backup. Bonus points when the paddle can measure fish too. I bring 2 different first aid kits with me, one for Oli and one for me. Oli's stays in the truck and mine stays in the front compartment of my kayak. Finally, an orange flag with a light so people can see me day and night. Up until now, everything that you've heard here will get you on the water and finding success, but the other half of the battle is finding good fishing locations and learning what fisheries in your area are available. Since this whole experience is best shared with friends anyway, learn from others. Truthfully, the knowledge that I shared with you is not my own. It came from a collection of wonderful people who passed it to me. The kayak community is truly great. You can find your own people and support. Online forums, local shops, trade shows, all of them are great. The best online mentors have wonderful communities that surround them. There you have it, tips and techniques. I am so proud to be a part of this fishing community. Please keep sending me your fish photos on Instagram. They make me so happy. Go outside, never forget how important your role is in the natural world. Enjoy it, and I will see you soon.